So I went on a journey recently, and by recently I mean like 3 weeks ago. And I've been trying to talk about it ever since.
And I may not get to actually editing and and everything on this episode for another month, so this will be fun.
Timely,
Cool.
Yeah.
Time's irrelevant. It means nothing.
I mean, in fairness, just to preempt you, Puss in Boots is coming out on the cock very soon. So,
oh my god, that's how long this is taking.
So you can get the puss on the cock?
Nice. Nice.
So yeah, I saw Puss in Boots after very little persuasion. Basically, I watched like a video and I was like, "That looks really interesting." Sat down and watched it, and I was like, "Why was that just as good as Spider-Verse? And why wasn't anybody talking about it?"
Because of the stink of Shrek associated with it.
Yeah, it's
very unfortunate
yeah.
because this is like a really fucking pretty movie that is just genuinely fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's good to know.
It looks
Yeah,
great. It's funny. Everyone's performance is great.
I heard
it's-
Banderas is like just like he's amazing in it.
It's a better movie about wishes than Wonder Woman 1984, but that's a low bar.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's better than it has any fucking right to be, and I think it's better than most of the Shrek movies except for maybe the first one.
Well,
mean,
if I'm remembering correctly, the original Puss in Boots movie was actually pretty good too, in comparison to the Shrek films.
Here's the funny thing: I have never seen any of those, and there were characters in this one who appeared in previous Puss in Boots movies who I thought were brand new characters this time, and I had no idea who they were.
We need to take one step backwards. This is where my being the only millennial on here tonight comes into play.
Wait,
you've never seen any of the Shreks?
No, I've seen Shrek. I've never seen the Puss in Boots movies.
Okay, I was gonna say only millennial. I think all of us are except for Eric, right?
Yeah.
No, I just mean.
Oh, you're the
younger millennial.
You're Gen Z.
Yeah, you're Gen Z.
No, I'm whatever's right
of...
between. Yes.
Me and Connor are geriatric millennials, and Eric's geriatric.
I'm not
giving a shit about this a long time ago.
The section of millennial, we're not going to do this. But the section of millennials that watch Shrek, okay?
We're not going to do this, but I'm going to continue to do it.
No, I'm just saying so that we understand the distinction here for this conversation. The group of people that watch Shrek and have had to deal with the Zoomers making memes about the Shreks after the fact, and all right.
But yeah, Puss in Boots is it's good one because it's actually about something really interesting. It's about Puss getting down to his last life, and he goes to find a fucking wishing star to get all of his lives back. It's basically everyone's making a mad dash for this fucking wishing star, and the villain is actually not who I'm going to talk about in a minute. The villain is a John Mulaney voiced. Oh fuck, what's his goddamn name? Fucking. Stupid ass brain fart. Hang on.
It also sounds like you're describing the plot of Thor: Love and Thunder.
One moment. Memento.
Almost like Hollywood's out of ideas.
He's Jack Horner. And
okay.
In the fucking nursery rhyme, and they bring that up constantly. They're like, "You're from Jack Horner. You're from what's it called? That nursery rhyme." He's like, "Yup, not a fairy tale."
John Mulaney is kind of the perfect casting for that character.
Well, and then the thing is, he's not little Jack Horner. He is Titan Jack Horner. He's a fucking monstrous, evil, awful, completely irredeemable piece of shit, and I love him. At some point, he somehow gets a hold of Jiminy Cricket, who is just horrified at him the entire time. And he's the actual villain. He wants to have all the magic for himself. But the antagonist, which is the reason why I went on this weird little journey we're about to get into, is a wolf named Lobo, voiced by Wagner Moura. And he is essentially the Shrek universe personification of death. And he is the coolest fucking thing. Okay?
He's very anime also, from what I've seen.
Awesome. He's got little sights, and on one of them, he's got all of Puss's 8 lives that have already been X'd out, and he has little X's through little cat drawings. And they make it a point to show that during fights. There's always little fucking visual things they do. Like at the beginning of the movie, they have a fight, and I think the wolf stops Puss's blade, and you can see the wolf's eyes in the reflection of his blades, and he looks terrifying. Later in the movie, they have a fight again, and he blocks it again. They show you the other side, and you see Puss's eyes, and he's all determined and shit. It's full of like really, really, really good attention to detail and lots of little visual storytelling. And then when it gets to when the momentum picks up, it gets that like that low frame rate Spider-Verse-esque animation style.
Yeah,
it looks
where they're changing
awesome.
Frame rates around. Yeah.
It's also it's very funny. Banderas is awesome. Salma Hayek is in it. John Mulaney. Florence Pugh is Goldilocks. With Bobby Baratheon as one of the bears. They're basically a Cockney crime family this time around.
Okay.
Yes, which I learned from commercials from before that they're doing before movies now, telling you to go get popcorn. I didn't realize that was Florence Pugh till you just said that was Florence Pugh.
I didn't know it was Florence Pugh till I read it. I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had to look up who did the voice that you said.
Yeah, and then Harvey Golan was in this. It's fantastic though.
Yeah, he's Wagner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll check it out when it's on the cock.
It's really fucking good, and I really recommend everyone sit down with it. It's a breeze too. I don't want to say too much about it because the less you know going into it, the better. Because it's just really surprising. So then I was like, "This dude's awesome. I want more of him. What's the next thing I can watch with him in it?" And I went right to fucking Elysium.
Yes, because you want to punish yourself. That's what you
know. What?
You want to do.
Here's the thing. I had a very fine experience with that movie this time around.
Sure, I think
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't hate that movie. I just I don't think that that director whose name is escaping me. I don't think he's been consistent in his output since Blomkamp. And that was one of those where I was extremely amped up to see that in a theater.
It wasn't anywhere near as good as District 9, and that can really fucking hurt it.
Yep.
Well, and it's also like, isn't it like sort of secret Jesus-y?
It is. And it's, there's like, white savior stuff, which people brought up when the movie came out. And like, yeah, it's just...
Well, I think we talked about this movie a while ago on the show, and
Probably.
One of the things I remember being brought up was originally they wanted Eminem in the lead role, and Eminem would only do it if they would have shot in Detroit. So I think that explains a lot of the issues that movie had.
Yeah.
Wagner's in that one as Spider, this fast-talky, crippled guy. The whole movie is just South America, I guess, at that point, is because that's where it takes place. I like the fact that it's very isolated. You don't really get too much of this weird fucking dystopia where they're like, go in that room and get some cancer and then fucking go home.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Charlton Copley was awesome, as always.
Yeah.
The gore is awesome. I love those rigs that they put on, the Surge looking fucking exoskeletons.
Yeah. Yeah, so like the aesthetics of that movie worked, and a lot of the, like, I would say, like, it's all the bits. It's all the little things about his movies that never fail. Like, it's the way the effects look. It's the way the action sequences are put together. He just seems to have a problem with plot and story, because he had one plot and story that was really on his mind, clearly, with District 9, and just about every plot and story afterwards, it's not extremely simple. He seems to have, I guess, problems like with like the nitty-gritty details of like that stuff, so he defaults to like, okay, well, I'm going to make a gun that looks really cool. I'm going to blow Charlton Copley's face. Yes.
Well, I think that's some of his problem, is that he gets obsessed with the visual aspect and doesn't have a story to build up why this visual aspect should work, and that's why all of his short films work so goddamn well.
Yep. The old stuff is all very simple, and the storylines are all like very A to B and not too complex or
Or he makes a movie where the Antwoord are taking up 90% of the screen time, and by the end of it, I want to jump out of my own skin. I'm so annoyed. I fucking hate Chappie.
I will admit I have not watched any of his movies since District 9, except for that one that he did recently about being able to go into a dying person's mind or whatever.
Demonic?
Demonic.
Yeah.
Which was
not great. Not great.
Not good. Again, lots of cool ideas in there. Yeah. Like halfway through, he's like, there's been this church here the whole time, and they hunt demons, and now they're using the computers to hunt the demons, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
What does any of this have to do with the story that you were telling? You didn't need to do demons.
I'm just looking at his IMDb. Do you know what his next film is?
Isn't it it's the Alien, right?
No, it's Gran Turismo.
That's
right. I forgot he was directing that.
Yeah. Not writing, only directing.
I thought that they had circled back to him on Alien, but I guess no.
I think that was pre-Disney. Was he in talks for Alien?
Well, the Gran Turismo movie actually has a kind of interesting plot. It's the story. I don't know what the whole story is. I just know that the main character learns how to drive I believe in races.
I'm reading the premise. It's basically like Last Starfighter, but for race car driving.
Yeah.
Like he learns how to race cars, on an arcade game, and then gets to drive a real race car.
Gran Turismo is not an arcade game, god damn it. How can
someone I don't know, it says video, but
oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He's supposed to learn by playing Gran Turismo the game, which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like in the premise, Nissan is in the premise of the movie.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course Nissan,
the car everyone wants to drive.
Nissan is making it seem like they're the car that everyone wants to drive. They're really pushing themselves on to everything, which fair enough if that's how they want to do it. I mean, they have a leg up, I guess, with electric cars or whatever. So might as well take advantage. But that's for another podcast. That's for a car podcast or
that's something we know so much about. So Connor, you implied that there was something else you watched because of being inspired by
this all brought me to motherfucking Narcos. First time watching that fucking show.
Yeah,
that's a good fucking really good. Show.
I mean, I haven't gone back and actually rewatched it myself, but my memory is that's a good time. It's a good way to pass a couple hours and not. They
casted so goddamn good in that show.
Yes,
is really what it is. It's like they just had perfect casting, head to toe.
Yeah, especially in those first two. I think Wagner as Pablo is so magnetic that when. As much as I love the actor, when they were trying to do other movies around the same time about Pablo, I was like, "What are you doing? This isn't. This isn't everybody jump on the bandwagon.
Touch what's happening right here."
Yes, it's just insane.
And
how
season 1 is
becomes the character.
Season 1, the stakes get higher and higher in such a short amount of time. And I thought that it was 3 seasons. I knew it was 3 seasons, but I thought it was 3 seasons of Pablo. I'm like, how the fuck do you sustain this tension for 3 whole years? That's insane. Also, everything I know about Pablo now, I learned from that show. Didn't know he blew the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know he did all those fucking car bombings. Didn't know he built himself a prison. No idea.
Yeah.
Did you know that they tracked him because of his toilet?
I knew cartel, cocaine, died in his pajamas on a rooftop. That's it.
Right.
I will say,
yeah.
This winter, which was very funny, my wife's cousin was living down here for work, and he's like, "Can we take the picture in front of the White House like Pablo?" And so we were tried to line it up, which I'm sure everybody does.
What is the Pablo Escobar shot of the White House?
It's in the show, and I guess it's a real photo. There's a photo of him just standing in front of the White House.
That's great.
Just him looking like a weird tourist.
That's great.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of photos. Like
Which
he's
is-
just hanging out with his kids.
Yeah, which is just like what Pablo apparently just dressed like. Is just a fucking like a schlubby uncle. He had the
Yes.
weirdest wardrobe in that show. One of them was like it was this long sleeve, like collared polo looking thing, but the center had a triangle. It said Golf Master.
Oh, I remember him
Golfmaster,
having
excuse me?
like, didn't he have like a trash green like sweatshirt, not a hoodie, just like sweatshirt he wore for a shit ton of episodes.
There's
Yeah.
towards the end, he is he's really bumming it out. He's in the same like bluish green top and like fucking flannel pajama pants or something, and his fucking flip flops.
Yeah, well, it's the meme that I'm sure we've all seen of just like Wagner looking off into the distance with a
Yeah,
sad
and
face.
in a couple different, like they have 4 different locations. One he's standing in a pool, and another one he's just sitting down, staring at his hands. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Hysterical. And then, like in the show, those moments are like he's really like thinking about his life. But the internet did what it does, and I'm proud
course.
of them.
And also, man, he went out the most undignified fucking way.
Oh yeah,
It's-
like with
yeah,
his gut hanging out, just like on a
His
roof,
gut-
shot the
his
shit out
gut
of him.
hanging out, not shaven, barefoot, in his pajamas, bleeding out. And then I don't know if this happened in real life, but in the show, they're standing over him, and some dude just draws a pistol and pops him in the face from like 2 feet away.
Oh, I'm sure that really
Christ.
happened. They wanted to make
They
sure
were like,
to
no,
go to
no more,
trial
no more
again.
second chances.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right.
After he killed the one cop, that's like you're just like, I'm remembering back. It's like, oh god, they're gonna kill you. Just calm a little bit down, and then I can't remember his name. The one that ends up killing like the kid, like the 15-year-old or whatever. It's like, oh, you know that guy's gonna die, but because I think he's in real life was like 3 different people. And I think one of them was on the arrest for Pablo.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not. They don't know who fired the killing shot at Pablo in real life. I believe last I'd read anyway.
I think that
Right.
was what they said, so that no one was targeted.
Yeah, probably.
yeah, and yeah. I bet also if you asked them all personally, they would all take credit for it.
Yeah, I shot Pablo. That thing with the
Exactly.
cop where he
It
gave
was
him the
me.
bullet back is apparently based on a real story.
Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, that's the sweater I was talking about. It's like it is such like I'm not gonna say
Yes,
I-
that's exactly.
that's my Sunday
That's a
relaxing look.
distilled image
No, it's a good.
of how he dresses, and that's fucking.
It's actually
great.
kind of a good look.
Like I'm like
Yeah,
I
he-
definitely would wear that today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I would 100% wear that when I'm knocking around on the weekend doing nothing.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
it's relaxed fit, and he earned
You
it.
needed it. Yeah.
I will say,
So,
season 3 is not as
hmm?
like the tension's like kind of relaxed, but it's not less.
It's a very
interesting.
different
It's a
show.
very different show. But as soon as Pablo leaves, like you're like, I can fucking breathe now. And who are these new
Mhm.
chums? And they're like, we're gonna make a bunch of money, and then we're gonna leave the cocaine business. And then they end up killing more people by accident than Pablo did in a week.
They think that they can do it's the Godfather 2, where they're trying to go
Yeah.
legit, and they end up being the worst because of it.
Yeah, like there's like a fucking
Mhm.
accidental chlorine spill. They kill 100 people. Some guy goes to a fucking salon, shoots up everybody there. Some guy gets drawn and quartered at the beginning of episode 2.
Yeah.
Oh, Connor, if you want to continue the drug cartel esque series, you should check out Snowfall on Hulu.
What
It's
is that?
really good. It's about how the crack epidemic started in South Central Los Angeles.
Ooh.
It told from the perspective of both the what was the guy's name? Freeway Ricky Ross. So it's partially
Yes.
based on his story, and then it's also telling the story of the CIA and how they were involved in bringing cocaine to
I'm
America.
sure their hands are totally
Yeah.
clean.
Oh no,
Did
no,
you-
no, not at all.
I put
Did you
I
watch
put that
Narcos
golf
Mexico?
shirt in the chat so you can see what a fucking dad
I-
shirt it is.
I never watched Mexico.
I
Sorry.
attempted Mexico. I got to the point where Wagner shows up for about an episode, and I don't know how much further I went than that. I just wasn't nearly as hooked by
I'm not
that.
compelled to finish it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got to it. Like I did so Connor, there's season 3, and then there's Narcos Mexico.
Oh,
which
that's
is like
right,
a
yeah.
4th season.
Yeah. And they've been...
It's what they
have a
tease
couple
at
of
the...
those.
Yeah, they tease at the end of season 3.
Yeah.
And it has a good cast. It's got Michael Peña and Diego Luna. I just never...
Yeah. It just didn't really grip me. It focuses like a lot more on
that show is 3 seasons.
Peña.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it kept going.
It ended in 21.
Yeah. Well, the whole after 3 seasons, we don't think anybody watches. That completely sensible thing that Netflix likes to say. That isn't nonsense whatsoever. But yeah, he that show kind of it just didn't really pick up on the same. Snowfall, that's at like 5 seasons now,
It's
right?
the 6th and final season just dropped.
Yeah, that's a sign to me that I should circle back and give it another shot, because if something's been going that long, there's something there. There's some compelling aspect to it.
It's quite good.
Yeah. I've seen like the image, but I never knew what it was about.
Yeah, It's like my wife and I tore through the first season, and we've been kind of slowly doling out the second season.
I think it's because I don't have cable and I don't use Hulu that much. So I don't see ads for it or anything.
Oh yeah, I see ads all the goddamn time for it, or I did while season 6 was on its way. So
right.
But also, Connor, if you like all that stuff, there's so many docs. Like there's the I think there's 2 Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah, there are.
And there's a Cocaine Cowboys docu-series, and there's what's the one? There's one on the woman who ran Miami.
Yeah, and
she's a queen pin.
There's another Netflix doc that's like, it's like Pablo's War. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like the other side. It's like the parts of the Wikipedia article they left out of Narcos.
Okay.
It's it's interesting. It's weird that they don't just like use clips from Narcos. They go and they do reenactments that are separate from Narcos. I'm like,
which like, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just funny. Like big corporations, it's like, you have Narcos right there. Just reuse clips from Narcos.
Because they probably don't want to pay those actors.
Yes,
probably not. They don't want to pay royalties. It's much cheaper to like. Probably, I imagine it's like a Colombian series that they bought and that they've just added American narration to, or English narration.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's like,
Lou, what were you gonna say?
I have.
You had a thought, and then that's fine.
Gone.
That's fine. Well, do we want to talk a little bit about Ant-Man, since 3 of us have seen it, and the 4th person does not care if we talk about it?
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess Lou, your opinion would be the first one to get, being that you just saw it.
So Ant-Man ripped out Hank Pym's heart, I saw it coming.
Yes.
It was Jonathan Majors is amazing.
Yes.
I think it shows. Here's my 1 sentence review: the worst Marvel movie with the best villain.
Yeah, that's
like,
I can see it. Yeah,
like I'm saying, like a quality villain. It is like the worst of like the Marvel movies with a quality villain.
Well, I mean, even since they kind of left the Marvel movies can't get villains right era. Even since then, like, that's still the consistent thing that people like to point out. They're like, "Oh, I wasn't into that villain. I don't understand Thanos' perspective," which I still think is badness.
Which
but
is
there
funny,
are people out there.
At this point, haven't they like readdressed every villain that people didn't like? Or thought was
they've even like
come
gone
back around
and like reinforced them. Yeah. Like they
including
do the
this
work.
movie.
Yeah.
I did hear.
Yeah, if you were like
did hear
confused
MODOK.
by the end of Loki, they do the work.
I did hear MODOK is
What was
basically
that,
just
Connor?
a big stretched out Corey Stoll face.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
But it's
I thought it
there's a
worked.
reason for it.
I
Yeah,
thought it worked. I thought why it is makes sense. I think they did a good job of addressing how how there's no way to make that character look not that.
It's a horrifying little goblin with no body.
If they put him in a more realistic movie, if he was like the villain of a Captain America, he would be even weirder. Like he would look even more out of place and just odd, in a way that I don't think Marvel is willing to do. As weird as they're willing to go sometimes.
So part of the reason why a lot of the special effects didn't really look up to snuff at times in Quantummania. Apparently, during post-production, both Quantummania and Wakanda Forever were working on special effects at the same time, and they were basically like fighting over who was working on what. And I think, and Marvel apparently put most of their people on Wakanda Forever, which makes sense.
Sense and shows.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is why Quantummania does not look all that great at certain points.
Yeah,
I didn't think it looked as bad as people were saying, but there were definitely points I'm like,
I think it's on par with like Thor and Guardians. Like
in the moments where those movies sometimes look like, all right, this shot wasn't. This shot could use another pass. There are moments that are like that.
I would say like nothing in the movie comes up to the special effects quality of like the opening of Guardians 2 when you're like going all around and that giant monster going inside. Like nothing looks that good.
Yeah.
But I thought the design for everything looked good. The story was
whatever.
It was to get to Kang.
It was a Star Wars movie. Is what it was.
Yeah. The thing that was discussed when some of us had first watched it was like, this is the first time I'm really feeling some of the larger criticisms that have been repeated over and over again for the last 2 years now, or since Marvel movies really started to come back.
You're talking about the people of color and the women having speaking roles.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Which we're against on this show, as we know,
exactly.
I think go broke, all that stuff.
I think my theory with it, well, not that I think, my theory with this movie is that Ant-Man movies are very low stake. Nothing has happened in any of them up until this one that have any real ramifications on the wider MCU. Like, until they kind of shoehorn them in later. This one, they knew they could put Kang into because he's the next big bad, and that way they could guarantee butts and seats if people are legit feeling fatigue of Marvel stuff. And I think it was a really smart move on their part.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, on the other hand, though, like it's not a good sign when your first big thrust with like your new villain arc is kind of a dud.
I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, here's the thing. As far as like its box office goes, like it had, I think, the single worst drop off for a Marvel movie ever.
It does. It's
also like at that weird time of the year. Like I know, like they always used to say February had that issue, and then like Deadpool and Black Panther broke it. But like maybe it was just those movies.
Yes, I think there's a lot of factors going on at once. I think that since theaters reopened and came back, the experience I think is starting to wear on people. The fact that the only movies anybody really wants to go to are the Marvel movies, I think is actually hurting the Marvel movies. The fact that they don't have anybody else to really compete with. And the only time there was Top Gun, and that movie was in theaters for like months. So it was like it's just been that, and we haven't really had this variety of movies outside of the horror genre. Like other than like Terrifier 2 and Skinamarink somehow making it into theaters widely. There's not a hey, you can have your problems with those movies, but like people are going to see them, and which shocks nobody more than me. But
I was actually just you were making me think because like obviously like seeing kids like I don't know how many movies that have come out in the last 6 months that are like for teenager like to like
guys,
20-year-olds.
you're missing the big one. Okay, Gerard Butler's Plane.
I honestly forgot that existed until you just said those words.
My response to that, Lou, is fuck them kids. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's also a lot of people that they're not necessarily fatigued with Marvel, but they're now at a point where they expect everything to be like Marvel at peak performance.
yes,
And you're not going to get that with every movie. Like people need to understand these movies are analogous to comic books. Like you can have runs that are fucking phenomenal, and then you have to put up with like 3 or 4 months of garbage before you get back into something good. And I feel like that's kind of the point we're at with Marvel films. I haven't hated any of them. Some of them have definitely not been as good as they could be, but that's because they're reshuffling things.
I mean, and to that point, like even Iger stepping back in is like, slow it down, guys. Let's take a beat. Reconsider some things and like
the other bad decisions that were made.
Yes. Which decisions that certainly were not starting when he was still in charge, that he let somebody else take the blame for. Certainly not. He would never do that. Not Bob Iger. No.
Honestly, weirdly, like I honestly think he only stepped away because he was trying to get a government job.
Probably.
He's very in that book. I think I talked about last time, the Red Carpet book. There's a large chunk of it about Disney, and he's in it a lot. And at the end of it, like it's like, oh, and Bob Iger's like, talking about trying to become the ambassador to China under Biden was like the end of the book.
I think that's part of it. I think he was like, if I leave right now, there's a chance somebody will hire me for like a position of like real power based off of my experience.
Yeah. And it was literally like all his like decades of working with China. He's like, this is my way into politics.
But also, he doesn't have to deal with the pandemic.
Yes.
And I just the pandemic, and then as we've talked about, the Don't Say Gay bill, and everything.
Ron DeSantis in general
causing drama.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like DeSantis, to get away from Quantummania for a little bit, I feel like DeSantis is making the moves he's making because Iger wasn't there, and that's exactly why he's actually succeeding, because Iger was playing four-dimensional chess while DeSantis was basically getting out tiddlywinks or like Lincoln Logs. He had no idea what was going on. So I don't know. I'm wondering what's going to happen with Disney now that they had some of their power stripped from the park, and that will affect their ability to make money as easily, and so on and so forth.
I mean,
I feel like what percentage of the parks make the money?
That's the thing. Like Disney World is constantly has stuff going on.
But they also have like 12 of them.
Well, and so I wonder about this too, and I was thinking about it as I was listening to a political podcast about this, and I was like, what if Disney's just like, fuck y'all, we're gonna go like to another country that will just like give us the ability to do whatever we want. Like they're just like, oh, we're just gonna go to Baja California. We'll pay off the drug lords, and we'll just like fucking run shit in a little.
Go to South Carolina, or
they make a $7.3 billion a year off of Disney World, because it says it makes it $20 million a day.
Holy shit!
I mean, if they can replicate that somewhere else and just leave Disney World to the Gators, that's
you have the LA one.
They know how. Yeah.
I can't even remember. They have the LA one. I think there's one in Paris. There's one in Shanghai. I think there's one in Tokyo.
I'm sorry. I was I was off by 21 billion.
Yeah.
They made 28 billion last year off of Disney.
So
Disney
as
World.
much as it's a big business. That's why they're still doing it. It's why it's crazy that like Warner Brothers is like, no, we'll just do like shitty roller coasters. We'll just do like really shitty roller coasters, and we'll have one Bugs Bunny who walks around our parks.
Don't like cigarettes.
And you're like,
honestly,
wait, I
grew up close to one of them, and I don't remember anybody in costumes ever.
You know what?
Yeah,
I know which
it's
one
a
you're
thing,
talking about.
like in the California park.
I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah.
anybody in costume.
Yeah,
there
the
either.
one in Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Which amusement park is
Six
this?
Flags.
Six
Six
Flags.
Flags.
Oh,
Which
yeah,
is
no.
which is owned by Warner, and based off of Lou and Connor's reactions, like nobody knows it's
You
run
would
by
have
Warner,
no like
which
until
I would
you
call a mistake.
until you suddenly
Yeah,
looked around and was
kinda.
like, "Oh, Looney Tunes." Oh, you'd have no fucking
Yeah,
idea.
when
And
when I was really
Superman
young,
and
there was
Batman roller
yeah,
coasters.
it was much bigger of that. Then when I was like
Yeah.
a teenager, they switched to Superman and Batman shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. I
Because
definitely
all the
remember.
rides.
I went there when I was like 9 or 10, I think, with my uncle, and I remember there was a whole lot of Looney Tunes stuff there, and that's how I knew it was WB, as I always called it when I was a kid.
Their
So.
kid area used to be called Tiny Toons Land.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
Mm.
sense.
Like once Warner Brothers like got DC, that's when they started changing because they always had the Batman ride, but then they made like a whole DC area
there's
at one
there's a
point.
Superman
Well, I mean,
ride.
Warner Brothers
It's,
has had DC since like the 70s or 80s, so it's
some
early
in
80s.
some form or
I
another.
maybe it was when like I'm trying to remember. It was
I
when
think
like
when
the
the first
Keaton
Batman
movies.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it was when the Keaton movies
Yeah.
were coming out.
Mhm.
Because like my family, we got a season pass. That's where we went all the time and stuff. Because
Mhm.
30 minutes away.
I don't go on roller
Sorry, someone
coasters,
just
so I
randomly
have
fell
never
on me.
been on any of those.
Oh,
Really?
I got stuck on one of their rides for 4 hours.
Oh,
That
no.
sounds awesome. What?
In the when they goes click 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 click, like
Mhm.
right when it was at the top. And we
Oh.
just was like there. And we're just like waiting, and it's like, well, there's a thing here. Can we just walk down? And
No.
releases to like, no, we can't release you because the ride's automated, so it could just go.
Yep.
And they do so much
Yeah,
shit.
fuck everything about that.
Russian roulette. So wait, I'd like to re-examine that. What you said earlier, Connor. You don't go on roller
I
coasters
am
at all?
Petrified of roller coasters. I don't like
Really?
heights.
This actually makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't like heights.
This makes a lot of sense, actually.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't like being up high. I don't like
Yeah.
being up high, and then the idea of being thrown upside down or going through loops. Any of that shit. Those like big vertical fucking climbs and drops. Nuh-uh. I'll do an indoor coaster, like something contained. That doesn't do a whole lot of crazy shit. Or like an outdoor coaster, like King de Car.
You're not
shit
into
like
the
that? No
idea
way.
of right. You're not into the idea of being like slingshotted into the horizon by a roller coaster with a belt. that's
Absolutely
malfunctioning?
not.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. I
Or
don't
getting your head taken off by a fucking random bar on a fucking roller coaster.
Oh,
That's
well, here's the thing. I'm sure Connor probably heard it too. Like growing up relatively near a Six Flags, I heard every horror story because there was like the one that was like it's like an elevator and then it just drops
Yeah.
you.
Tower of Terror.
Mhm.
That like a girl's ponytail got stuck in it
Yep.
and it ripped her scalp off.
I know that story.
That's you know what? She had it coming. She shouldn't have been. She shouldn't have been out of the house.
Not our
Also,
Six
I
Flags,
think
but a different
living-
Six Flags had 2 decapitations.
He should have been in the
with
kitchen.
Yes.
A different Six Flags had 2 decapitations from the same ride.
Oh, you know what? You just sparked an old memory because ours in New Jersey had a wild safari.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
it
Through.
did, and they had baboons that would free roam.
I
Yes.
did that. I
It
did
had
that with my grandmother a few times.
Yes, baboons would destroy your car. I was there one day when one of the bears got out
Oh. Did
in
you
the
start
safari,
eating
and we were
everything?
like driving, and we're in the Australia part, and all of a sudden you see like the 80 kangaroos just fucking running, and everyone's like, "What is going on?" And they had to like have their little jeeps pull up. It's like, "All right, guys, just hang out here." Somehow a bear got out of the electric enclosure,
We've got to
and
kill this bear.
and I think
Well,
also
Okay, Bear the prequel. Or the
Uh,
sequel.
somebody near there was like a Tiger King person, and their tigers got out, and there was a rumor that it got out from Six Flags, but it all ended up being like some crazy person that had like a million exotic
she was in
pets,
Jackson,
like
I
Tiger
think.
King. Yes,
That sounds like New Jersey. Sounds a lot like New Jersey or Staten Island.
There's
those
enough room
people
on
are
Staten
all
Island.
over the place. Yeah, like
But let's get back to Quantummania. So I wanted to touch on Jonathan Majors because
Yeah.
he was so goddamn good in this.
killed
He
it.
was so good.
He's so good.
There was a
And-
lot of potential after Loki.
Yeah.
And it was like I hope they'll make good on that potential. I absolutely think that they did. I couldn't be more impressed.
And the suit design was like
Yes.
on point. It like not only looked good, but it also looked like it fits in the world. Like all the Thor movies, the Guardians movies, and even the Eternals. Like it kind of fits in there.
I don't know if you noticed the point where they showed him like, well, actually when he was fighting everybody else, and like you saw his armor retract. Kind of. I don't know if you noticed that, Lou.
Yeah,
Arlen.
I was gonna say like there's a lot of him that reminds me of Stark Tech.
Well, it's not even Stark Tech. It's just that when his armor retracted like that, it was 100% comic accurate costume. Like for a brief second or two, I was like, "Oh my god!" And
but also, even when he's blasting
ahead.
people, I was like, "Oh, this is like kind of Stark Techy." And Kang's supposed to be, he's like
he's
a
supposed
descendant
to be
of Stark.
Richards.
Richards.
No, Richards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's a fake. Isn't there like a fake Tony Stark Jr. that is Kang?
There was Iron Lad in the Young Avengers.
Okay, that's who I'm
that was
mixing up.
Kang. Yeah.
Yes.
Which, speaking of alternate versions of Kang, like my buddy Bill and I had joked with each other, like, yeah, right, like they're gonna have a Mortis. Like, can't wait to see that. And what do they do in the first post credits? They give us fucking a Mortis and Rama Tut.
Like, I was like, oh my god, this is wild! Like that they're doing this.
Rama Tut blew me away. Rama Tut is like, holy shit, they're doing it.
That's like crazy deep cut.
Yes.
And he did different voices for them. And I'm like, I'm sure that was fun as hell. I'm sure the makeup sucks, but I'm sure like, oh, you can play this character any way you fucking want. Like,
which is like, I mean, I think I remember saying something similar to that when he was announced. I was like, he's too versatile of an actor for him to be a one-off. They have to be doing something more with this. And like, yeah, they're doing more with this.
Well, yeah, we already knew that when they announced the Kang Dynasty as the Avengers film. And that was something else with I'd seen people complaining about, because, hey, what a shock, it seems like Kang gets killed at the end of this movie.
Right.
I'd seen somebody bring up the fact that the second post-credit scene where you see Loki and Owen Wilson watching that dude who's Kang but goes by a different name, that was actually a character in the comics that Kang went back in time and acted as. Yeah. So the thing I'd seen somebody theorizing was Kang didn't actually die at the end of Quantummania, but that version of him was the one that went back in time and became that character.
Probably. I mean, we see him. They do a kind of like a repeat of the Yellow Jacket death with Kang, and it's like,
yep,
that's foreshadowing. That's it's like
so
very
much
basic, like setup and payoff. It's like,
the movie was like filled to the brim with like punch you in the face foreshadowing.
Yeah. Like it's very obvious that like in some form or another, there's going to be an Ouroboros here by the time we get to the end of,
and that's what Kang saga. That is what
like these. Yeah, exactly.
Eric, did you catch the like very very side X-Men thing that they did?
What thing was that?
Oh, the broccoli guys.
I don't remember. I remember the broccoli guys, but what is that from X-Men?
Oh, the broccoli guys that's the planet that Phoenix nukes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, remember, like it's like one of the.
I haven't read the Phoenix saga in I don't know how many years.
That what's his name randomly drew into the comic.
That's awesome.
Like a planet of broccoli guys.
That's awesome. No, I did not realize that. That's rad.
Yeah,
nice.
I did love Michael Douglas. That guy's broccoli, or whatever. That guy's face.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I did not know Bill Murray was in the movie.
I heard his character is seemingly just sliding into senility, and he's just really fucking in love with ants now.
Oh, he's just being cool as shit.
Yeah. I think I've been saying this. It's like he's just like coming in with like bangers, just like lighting everybody up left and right.
Yeah, he's talking about socialism is how ants work and all that. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
He's full grump mode, but like not annoying grump mode, just like having the best time of his life. Loved it. Good.
Yeah, he's grandpa who doesn't need to give a fuck anymore.
Yeah. It's really good.
I haven't finished Love and Thunder yet, but I can tell you, like, my immediate problem with it.
And
It's got a fucking tone problem. It has a very, very bad tone problem.
Yes.
That movie does have.
You cannot shoot me from the cancer storyline to the fucking tomfoolery that is happening in other sequences. Like, the movie doesn't even know what the fuck it wants to be.
So that's what I've been. That's sort of been my take for a while now. It's like, if you're doing the Jane Foster cancer stuff, do the Jane Foster cancer stuff. Don't throw us into this like Ragnarok like part 2 stuff. It just doesn't work. The balance isn't there. I don't know what happened, but they weren't able to get everything calibrated correctly. Because Ragnarok, in moments, like, it goes for some serious things, and it tries to like be like this very sincere thing underneath the comedy that's going on, but nothing as heavy as like cancer, one of the most like destructive and horrible diseases, and real world things that you can go through. Like, you kind of need to portray that sensitively.
Well, and also, like, if you're following his story at this point, like, Thor has now kind of become, unfortunately, defined by fucking loss, and Jane is the umpteenth person who has died in his presence or in his arms.
Well, it's the fourth big one. He's basically now alone. Yeah. Well, except for now the kid, but like, you have, like, he lost his dad, he lost his mom, his dad, then his brother, and now Jane.
And Heimdall. You have
most of Asgard is dead.
Oh, he didn't like him. He was just putting up with him. Thor is an Aryan god.
Oh my fucking God. I was like, what's Eric saying here? Okay, I see what he's going.
Yeah, Ragnarok is this like Thor having some kind of internal crisis, I think, very well. And then when it had to be funny, it was really funny in short little bursts. And this is like, the gags go on for so fucking long, and they're so corny.
Yeah. It's a lot of, some of it overstays as well. Eric, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like in some ways, TD was just doing this because he's like, I don't want to get stuck making these movies forever. Yeah. And I kind of wonder.
I think he said, I would love to do Ragnarok Part 2, and the executives at Disney were like, yes. Go on.
Wouldn't you now?
They slid a check over to him. They're like, and would you like to do a Pixar movie or Disney animated movie?
Star Wars.
Well, and it's
I want to do an Alien?
To tie back to 1 second, I gotta sneeze.
Go ahead.
Eric died forever.
I will trying to sneeze still. Go ahead.
I'm gonna vamp. Like, I will say this, and I love Waititi. Some of his like really, really early work is some of my favorite films ever made. But like, I have noticed the bigger of a budget he has, the harder time he has balancing some of this emotional stuff. And it's, it happens with some directors. Like, I think Jojo Rabbit works, but there are some people who like don't think that the balance is right in that movie, and they think it's like obscenely out of place, some of the comedy in that movie. Now they were going for like maximum difficulty.
On that one, I would say, you better have some good jokes in this fucking movie about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I like that movie.
I do like that movie. But there are people who are like, the Johansson stuff is just too much of like a flop back and forth. And again, I'm saying I get it. I thought that movie worked flawlessly. I was mesmerized by the whole time. But like, I guess if you are comparing it to, is it Hunt for the Wilder People?
Yeah.
Which does similar things. It's like dealing with like some like deep emotional like trauma stuff and like bonding over trauma and like also a bunch of like uproarious comedy at the same time. And you could argue that he is maybe better at balancing those things with less other things that he has to put on top of it.
Now
I think that's yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was sort of wrapping up there anyway. So yeah.
So back to the point I was going to try and make before I had a sneezing fit, which still doesn't seem to want to go away. Okay. Sorry. I feel like Marvel might need to be a little bit more careful with DC seemingly having gotten their shit together, and people like Waititi and I don't know, even the Russos, if the money and the freedom was enough, they could really come in and make Marvel kind of regret having their hand or their reins a little bit too tight at times.
Yeah.
Well, I also think the DC thing is like we've gotten the Batman and then nothing else from the new group and like Suicide Squad.
I know, but I'm saying the goodwill that James Gunn and Sassafras seem to be bringing about.
If Iger and Kevin can't recalibrate by the time, let's say James Gunn is 3 of the brand new projects, so stuff that we didn't know was coming out. Like we knew somewhat about.
Oh, you mean like the rumored Batman Beyond animated movie?
Yes, but like we knew about Squadron or what is it? Monster Squad? Monster Commandos?
Howling. Yeah.
Not Howling Commandos, but the DC.
We knew about that. We kind of knew about them. We knew about. So anyway, aside from the stuff we knew, once there's 3 projects into the new direction that they're going, if I would say if Kevin and Bob haven't like figured out, how to get back to the formula that like makes audiences happy while still putting out a lot of stuff, because I don't think that they can slow down and go back to 2 movies a year again. I think that that's like a way overcorrection on their part. But if they can't like figure out what the right mix is by the 3rd movie and James's empire that he's building, like I think it could go really bad. I think that we could see Marvel movies like tanking entirely and not getting good reviews or getting bad audience. I think a bad audience reviews is actually the worst.
That would be the worst thing.
Because
it would depend. It would depend on where it's coming from. Because I mean, you've got bad audience reviews like, "Hi, she don't smile enough," and then you've got people who have legitimate concerns and problems with the movies.
I'm definitely not talking about Brie Larson. Clearly, doesn't like blah blah. Brie Larson doesn't get along with this person. No, not that type of thing. But like,
I do have to say they have 2 things kind of in their pocket going for them, and it's Fantastic Four and X-Men. We have not gotten ever a good Fantastic Four thing.
I think that's a good point, though. If the current era of things and the multiverse saga and all that, if none of it really pops and people are like walking away from it like, well, the Endgame saga, the Infinity War stuff, that was better. If they just go all in on X-Men and FF, like it's a different tone. It allows you to kind of start over, but still build on what you've already have.
It feels like part of this is them beginning to start over. Like you see that with the younger what character doesn't have a what do they call it?
An understudy ready to
take. But there's a specific word in like comic books that they call it. I can't remember it right now. Legacy character, yeah. Like they have a legacy for every single character at this point.
They do. I think they've set up just about all of them, and I think that's that's the direction they're going to go. And depending on what the reception generally is to this new era after it's sort of, done with, we'll decide how prominent those characters are in the post X-Men era that they're going to start. Which
the other thing that I think Marvel are going to be the first ones to do, unless James Gunn gets real brave, Marvel has a chance to put out like a hard PG-13 or light R Marvel movie. And if they do that, they will win back so much audience so quickly.
You have Deadpool 3 waiting in the wings.
I think James is going to get there before them. I
think he is too, and that's kind of where I'm like, that's where Marvel's been fucking up. They need to age out their audience.
Because even just looking at last year, right? The runaway like comic book superhero thing of last year, I would argue, is still Peacemaker. From anything, like I think about that show more than all of the Marvel shows from last year collectively, combined, or any of them individually. I'm constantly thinking about it, and I'm like getting like myself amped up about what season 2 will be, and I just don't have nearly the same givings of shits about a lot of other Marvel stuff. And I don't want to just say, well, it's because Peacemaker was rated R and it was for adults. But like the fact that they were able to curse and we were able to see like John Cena singing into a vibrator, like that adds a different flavor. And it's not Deadpool rated R, which is like edgelord, try hard stuff, which I think works better than those movies should work. But it gets very boring. It's just like a long
Peacemaker
episode
gave
of Family
you John
Guy.
Cena cussing at Aquaman.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know though, because that particular part of James Gunn's like career with DC or Warner Brothers, that still felt like the wooing period.
And we also have two other non-Gunn DC films before we get to his shit, and how much they may poison the well further.
Oh, Flash and Shazam, yeah.
No, okay, sorry. 3. It's Flash, Shazam, and Aquaman.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that the rumors about Aquaman being bad have started.
Which I hope it's not. Like, I don't have good feelings about... Like, I think Flash is going to be... it looks good, but, like, there's so much fucking baggage. And Shazam... Zach Levi's started to throw some fire on his baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dumb fuck.
Zachary Levi just like, I'm just gonna throw everything on fire now. I'm just gonna
it's like, have we not learned?
Nope.
Well,
I think
is, like, DC has really bad luck with this stuff, man. They've really lucked out.
The Ezra thing is a whole nother thing, but it's like Marvel's had their things. They've just shut the people up a bit better.
Even Evangeline and Letitia, like now, like they don't even want to talk about it. They're like, I don't even want to discuss it.
No, Evangeline has been out there saying like, no, Marvel
recently.
Yeah, she was saying that Marvel never once tried to shut me up and blah blah. But I also wonder if that's them being like, you want to keep having a job, you better get out there and start singing our praises.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, your contract is set to this. You can be in the movie, and we can have a bullet in your head off screen.
Yeah. And then but you go to the DC side, and it's like, even if it's not anything solid, you have like Gal seemingly having some opinions that are not good.
Well, she started off being like a whole issue because of like the national issue. Like in Israel. Yeah.
Well, then you have the stink of the Amber Heard trial.
Oh yeah.
And yes, you have Henry maybe being like an incel boy. I don't know how. I still don't know if I believe that one or not.
How can the most beautiful human on Earth be an incel?
Right. How can a man who works out that much possibly be an incel?
Who would not blow him?
How can Gina Carano's ex possibly have bad opinions?
Yeah.
You just put
Put in perspective for you, didn't he?
And again, I don't know how much I believe it.
Oh, do you think they had the most gnarly sex on a "Don't Tread on Me" flag?
Well, here's my question though: do you think
all the blanket on top of a flag
could all that stuff be like her like right wing fanboys putting that out there?
I could see that being a thing. Well, so the rumor, which we talked about at length, I think, in a previous episode, was basically like he left The Witcher because he doesn't respect Lauren Hurstfrich, or who's the showrunner of that show, and he doesn't think that she's a nerd quite enough, or so on and so forth, and disrespectful to his female co-stars. For those who haven't seen The Witcher, the cast of that show was actually mostly women when you like count the number of them who are in important roles and have screen time. So like, if that's true, that would be bad for a lot of people there. I just don't know how much I believe it.
When any of this stuff have come up in, it's like he's just started being famous. Like,
yeah. And he's been around for like 20 years is the thing. Yeah. He's one of those guys where it's like he just now kind of has started to pop and gain like an audience, you know?
He has like a huge kind of following, being like this
of the
nerd.
classic movie Immortals.
Yeah, yes. And Mission Impossible 3 with his shotgun arm, or not Mission Impossible 3, Mission Impossible 7 with the shotgun arms.
I was going to have you bombed, Eric.
Yeah, well, you know, Mission Impossible 3 was the start of that like sequence of films, so I wasn't horribly off.
It's yes, I understand.
Don't forget co-starring in Man from U.N.C.L.E. with a reported cannibal.
That movie was great. That movie was great. Sorry, I didn't get to add it. Like, I just watched that recently with my wife, and
I did too.
Loved it. Oh my god,
it was great. Yeah. It's very good. The ending, I just don't remember what the ending is. But other than that, the actual movie itself, great. But yeah, and then you know Ray, I don't want to talk about Ray right now, but Ray is a bag of worms, bag of rats or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like and so on and so forth. So it's like, how many like times can they like pick somebody?
And this is all underneath the giant cherry on top of the shit sundae that is
the many crimes of Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Yes. The many
crimes of Ezra Miller.
Like the golden star here
That's
is
my favorite Lemony Snicket book.
And Margot is like, I will play Harley Quinn as many times as I need to, but I need a break. I need a break from being the one consistent thing that you have.
Well, but that's the thing. All right, let's examine that. Like the stuff that James Gunn was posting as inspiration for their new direction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a place for a Harley Quinn like her in it.
It's Like, I'm very curious how that's going to play out.
Honest, yeah.
I mean, he said the line. We're being run by writers, not by actors. Which. Well, it was a shot at The Rock. It is a way of addressing the fact that like actors, for a minute there, they were kind of like the driving force behind whether or not these movies actually got made. Jason wrote the second Aquaman. Zachary Levi kind of got Shazam out the door.
Well, he did Shazam almost what like Ryan Reynolds did with Deadpool. Yeah, and like he's a major producer. Like, I think that it's a way of addressing the fact that like that era, sort of in between, right after the what I'm calling the shit leaders who cashed out and then just left. That era right after them is just these actors like being able to have control over these characters, and in some cases, I would say that worked out well.
And in other cases, you get a movie that, like Birds of Prey, which at best divisive. At best, like a lot of people really like it, and then you have a section of people that are like, "This is not for me." Right, I agree. I agree with you.
I was thinking that, like, I did read something, and I think it would be the only thing that would work with Harley is doing a Harley Ivy movie, but that is like really going like you're going hard.
Well, and the other thing is that like
well,
that
yeah, but
is
they've
currently already covered with something that like is perfectly fine where it is.
Yes,
yeah.
But there's been talks that like I read something like that's something Margot would want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you just reminded me, because she's not our only Harley Quinn. We have another movie they have that's not done.
And I'm very curious what that's going to do. Like, I'm very curious what Lady Gaga playing Harley, even for one movie, will do to the relationship between Margot and WB. Yeah.
Man, I really hope. I have a feeling we're getting like House of Gucci. Gaga. I mean, like, which in a normal movie, that's Harley. I can see that. Not in Joker 2.
I am
whatever the fuck
Electric Boogaloo.
I'm
looking forward to people's opinions.
Morbid curiosity is where I'm at with that movie.
As like the person who like really could not give a shit about the first Joker, I was like, fine. This is a film that people are like, oh, this is the best film ever made. Whatever. Like, it's fine. I'm all in on this. This sounds really weird and strange. And I can be there for weird and strange. And like the fact that it's supposed to be a musical, sure, why not? But the movie could be a total disaster. That's the flip side of that. Like, it could go way off the rails and be.
And that's why I want to see it.
Yeah.
It could easily be like Cats.
Yeah.
You know what? Like in a like
in
the
Joker butthole cut.
Cat, but it looks like the Joker. I'm kind of in. I'm kind of there.
That is like that sounds like the perfect adult. Let's all get drunk and do some drugs and fucking laugh at this movie. That is not what Warner Brothers wants.
No, they want a series. They want to go to the Oscars again with that.
Yes,
Oh,
which is going to be real interesting if that does happen for Marvel, because there's a real good chance they get their first one, their first legit one.
With what?
Supporting actress.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck! I didn't. Yeah. God damn it! Oh, god damn it!
That that's gonna really adjust some pressure, and some situations, like, because then it's like, well, we made a prestige film. It's not like it, it kind of ups that. So,
and I do want to just the thought of will the MCU when will they leave the sort of like family friendly area? I think that we've seen peaks of it.
We have. Eternals was their first, like, sorry to interrupt. The Eternals was their first, like, step into the pool, and they decided they weren't brave enough because people didn't accept it. So they're like, nope. We need to back away from that idea for a little while. Yeah.
And they've mostly not touched it. I think Moon Knight went someplace that I did not expect.
But it went in a different direction than Eternals did. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the monster stuff, if they're actually going to commit to it, and actually like do it, I could see them getting darker there. I don't know if they are committing to it. I don't know if
they have movies though that they can't not do. Like, how do you make a Blade movie? Like, and you have a huge fucking.
I don't know. Let's ask Marvel. They haven't done it yet. It's still on.
I mean, it's been pushed back because Blade was supposed to happen this year. It was.
Yeah, that was a COVID thing, I think.
Blade was supposed to happen when the Marvels was going to release before the Marvels got pushed back to November.
Yeah. And like all the stuff about that is funnily enough, it's about an actor who's like pushing things through, who isn't happy. Mahershala is apparently not enjoying himself with the entirety of the making of this movie.
And he's the one who started it all. From what he said, he basically walked into Marvel, like figuratively, and was like, "I want to play Blade," and they're like, "You have 2 Oscars, sir, that you just won back to back. Yes. Who do you want to do all the other shit?"
The rumor that I heard connected to Mahershala not being happy was that the original Blade script that came through was, I think, like 90 pages, and it had 2 action scenes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No other details other than that have floated to my way, at least.
That's a movie where, like, you need to get real experimental. Like, I would go looking for, like, some sort of martial arts director, like someone who's like Hong Kong, like action movie guy, maybe not done a whole lot of stuff. I'm like, let's fucking go real like wild on like our shooting and our style.
Oh, you mean like get somebody like the Daniels to direct it?
Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm not calling anybody out because I like this movie, but it can't be Shang-Chi.
It's very different tonally. It's not fantasy. It's got to be. Like,
it's got to be dark and gritty,
and it can't have. It's not that it can't have fantasy elements. I mean,
I want fantasy elephants.
The original 19. Yes,
like all we need is
if
they just gave us The Raid, but it's Blade and vampires.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like hire Gareth Edwards. I confuse him and the Godzilla guy.
That's the Godzilla guy.
But yeah, they're both named Gareth. But yeah, like get the people from the Raid. Just get them. Get the stunt team from the Raid. How great
does that sound? Like, oh, like he's just Blade rolling up. It's a fucking vampire den. He has to get to the top floor for the king vampire guy, and he's battling his fucking way up.
Well, or it can even be, I think that level of plot simplicity is just good for Blade. I think all you need to see is Blade destroying people, just like annihilating people,
and all different weapons, different types of vampires. Like, let's go like one level is all like bat vampires. Then we got like I don't know, like just go all out like video game.
And you're not bound by like David Goyer's like false groundedness that he did during that trilogy, where you can like have like real weirdness. And again, that first Blade movie, there's a fucking like blood god and shit, and like people's skeletons come out of their bodies.
One of the coolest vampires in that movie is the fat one.
Yeah,
that he has the lamps, the torture scene with the lamps. Like, do that weird shit.
Well, it's like just a simple premise that could work, kind of like what you're saying with the Raid. Just have Blade having to descend through like a vampire structure that's underground. So he'd be going down instead of up, or you could even introduce the some of the hell-based characters, have him fighting closer to hell and running into Hellstrom or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of things they could do, but you also need to use Mahershala the right way, because you can't just have him trying to be a stand-in for not Denzel, Jesus Christ, for Wesley. Thank you. I'm a little stuck.
He needs to. No, he does need to. He needs to make the character his own. I think is kind of where you're going with that. Is like
Well, and what he's great at, and from seeing him in other things, it's like all I want is to see like someone's doing something, and just like you just see like out of the shadows of Mahershala's face in sunglasses, and just start talking, and then just goes back into the shadow and is gone. Just keep doing that over and over again, and I would be happy. Because his thing is like he's big as shit, and he is quite menacing.
Yes,
and which is Blade, which is like the part of Blade that I like.
And it's why I when they initially announced this, it's like that's perfect. He has a different energy, but it matches perfectly with.
Like he's got to be. He's the boogeyman for the boogeymen. Like they need to he should someone should be typing at a computer, and then you just see like it's exactly the scene from the end of Eternals. Like someone's doing something, and you just hear a voice, And like, except this time they actually turn the camera and you see Mahershala.
Yeah.
Oh, Connor, since you're the one who seems to be the most like unsure of what's going to happen with the MCU, what would you like to see that you would get them back on track for you?
You know, honestly, at this point, I don't really know. The one thing I can say, and I was going to mention this earlier when we were talking about Thor, like, I really think they have to, like, overall across the board, adjust their writing style to be less, like, irreverent and silly. Because, like, now I think it's starting to become, like, really overt and noticeable. I think that's going to tire very quickly on people.
Every character can't make all the jokes.
It's that term I heard was Whedon speak. Everybody's got Whedon speak.
Yeah, I think there's the parts of Black Panther that are bad are those parts.
I agree. Yeah, like I very much enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There were moments where I was like, "Do we need a quip here?"
Oh yeah, again, worst parts of that show too. The best parts of that show are the most serious shit that they do.
Yeah, it's the Isaiah stuff. It's that stuff where they take it like deadly serious.
Oh, that at the bank, like when the opening things, when it's like, wait, you're an Avenger. It's like, yeah, that doesn't come with a paycheck. I'm like, I can't coast. Like, you can't. I fucking save the universe, and you can't help my sister.
Yeah, more of that stuff, please.
Yeah,
like,
but like I can't, I can't understate how like the whole like John Walker and Bucky like exchanging Lincoln quotes, like that interaction has only gotten worse for me. I think about that now and I'm like, that's fucking terrible. Like,
well, I think that's also society.
You guys were fighting to death 2 episodes ago.
No, it hasn't. You were literally trying to murder each other, and now you're just like bros. It's like, all right,
Abe Lincoln, huh? Yeah,
like even thinking back to Hawkeye, it's like, oh, most of the best stuff of that show is the serious shit. Like the only funny stuff I really enjoyed, like I like the LARPing thing, but like you didn't need as many jokes in it.
See, with Hawkeye, I think that they were like. I think
it felt
from what I've read, they matched the Fraction stuff really well, and
which
Fraction's
is very
comedy. And his style is entirely its own thing. It's very different from the rest of Marvel comedy, to me at least.
And so like it would work better if they started doing stuff that like the good comic runs did, like with She-Hulk too. Is like the stuff that worked were stuff that was like kind of pulls or direct like doing stuff from the comic as opposed to other things look really shoehorned in.
Well,
that ties back into some of what Connor's issue is, and kind of what mine is too, is that those runs that you're talking about, Lou, like they were all good because they catered to an older audience that could appreciate some of the stuff more in it. And I think that's what Marvel needs to do is grow up. Not a lot. They don't need to go grim dark, but
no.
They need to grow up with their audience and respect the audience intelligence a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so. I
mean, it's a very gentle ascension, but they could do it and it would seem completely fine. Yeah, and then they could veer off and have the stuff that's safe for kids. That does connect to the big movie that'll be safe for everybody, and then have the adult-based stuff over on the other side.
Right. I mean, you know, I've dunked on them in the past. The people that are like, you know, they're doing screenshots of the Batman and No Way Home, and they're like, "Y'all really love Marvel movies." As funny as those tweets are, and utterly absurd, like I do think that they're responding to a need when people say things like. There is something that they are missing from Marvel that they clearly want from Marvel. And I agree. Like, I kind of do want that from Marvel. I think the most interesting thing about going back to those very earliest movies is seeing how diverse the tones of what they were doing were. I rather enjoy, like, the very Shakespearean aspects of that first Thor movie. I think that stuff has only aged well for me. The rest of it is just like a soft remake of Masters of the Universe. It's just like the exact same film, but like the real like gravity and weight that some of that stuff has, that like, you know, I love Ragnarok, but like I kind of miss some of that. It's the thing that makes Dark World, as boring as parts of that movie is, makes it at least like an oddity and an interesting oddity to watch. And the problems with that movie that really doesn't hold up is, again, it's the comedy. It's the fact that they are like trying so hard to do two things at once and not doing either of them well.
Yeah. Well, both those movies, especially Dark World, is doing a bad job of like pulling from Simonson's run, which are much more Shakespearean, much more in the fantasy as opposed to the sci-fi, which they pretty much abandoned. Like Ragnarok abandons the fantasy elements, and they start to do it in Dark World. And
they
it's
got
like
more space opera in Ragnarok.
Which is all. It's one, changing the writing style, and also like is the China thing of it all.
It is.
Because like the fantasy stuff is what makes Thor like different than Guardians and all the other space shit. It's like, he is running around. It's all this fantasy stuff and fighting trolls and goblins and giants.
I think some of the reason why they abandoned the fantasy aspect is because the Guardians did so well for them, and
well, and magic,
the cosmic. Well, that and just I think they're like, all right, we need to focus on this instead of fantasy. We'll get back to that if we feel like it. And
interestingly, they kind of do in Shang-Chi, and with multiverse, we kind of see more fantasy elements coming back.
Well, also with the post credits in Eternals with the Black Knight. So they have other avenues to get there, and I think they might be slowly dipping their foot into that. But I think it was just a pragmatic choice. Like we can't go in all these directions at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And they, by this point, they knew somewhat what they were doing with the Infinity Saga and all that. They knew that they were going for Infinity Gauntlet. Like I believe I heard Joe and Anthony Russo talking about like they were working on Civil War, but they had like a board set up and they like had pictures from Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity. Was it called Infinity War or was it just called Infinity? I don't remember.
Infinity Wars, I think, is the old one.
The new one was also Infinity War.
Yeah. Okay. But they had the panels up and they were already thinking in those terms of like, okay, what are the characters from this that we already have? Who is doing what now at the point in which we're making these? Where are they going to be moving by the end of the movies that are coming up? And they were already like, my point is like they had an idea of where they were going by this time.
I'm sorry, real quick. It was Secret Wars by Hickman. God damn it. I'm an asshole. Anyways.
We spent a lot of time on the MCU. I don't mind that though.
I do want to bring up like two quick things though. It's like just connecting to Marvel. I watched all of Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur. It's a kid's show. It's fucking adorable. It's so funny and fun. Amazing music. I want Marvel to keep putting out shit like this. It's the couple of good things from Teen Titans Go, like kind of stylized like that ish, but like much better art and coloring, but without being like, with being much more endearing and having a ton of heart and like having good lessons and completely embracing like that it's a young black girl character. They talk about the Lower East Side. They do all like that kind of stuff, like on Front Street.
I don't watch any fucking woke dinosaur shows.
And it's really cool. Like it's very fun. Devil is awesome as like this like Scooby-Doo character, like this Scooby character. Like it's very fun. The season finale though, Eric, features one of the dumbest and best Marvel comic characters. It's her playing basically Peter's role with the Beyonder.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's
and
awesome.
the Beyonders like wants to follow her around, and she's like, "No, I gotta do the science fair." I think they had Keith David do the voice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's lots of fun stuff. And then I just saw on the news, Clancy Brown is going to be in the Penguin.
Yeah, I posted that in the group chat.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
so happy that Clancy Brown is continuing to get work. That dude is awesome.
Everything he does is awesome.
Yeah,
even Pathfinder.
He's one of my favorites. He's fantastic. Even Pathfinder. Yeah, every announcement for the Penguin show just makes me more and more rabid. I'm just like,
because
I just need it.
I love the Batman, and I think they did such a good world building, and that show sounds like a show that should exist in the Batman universe.
The crime world that they establish in the Batman, to me at least, it felt the closest to the books for me. Like it felt like the best,
especially like year one,
like it feels so well thought out and lived in.
Chewy to me.
And yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's a little Earth Chewy. It's very like Batman Year One, Snyder's Batman Zero-ish. Like it's very early, not the grim dark, more detective-y, but like very.
Connor, that is a good point, though. That's something I don't think I ever put my finger on. Like, yeah, it definitely did feel.
Yeah, like I was expecting him to kick out Alfred's leg at some point. Like,
I wouldn't go that far. I felt it was more like setting, but in some ways, I would have liked to have seen. Robert and King Kong there get into a fight.
Oh, I would have also loved to see fucking.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Blow fucking Colin Farrell out of a window with a shotgun.
But yeah,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Lou. But yeah.
No, I'm just like on the flip side of all the stuff we're talking about, like with Warner Bros. Like that actually has me the most excited of anything.
Well, it's weird. Like Colin Farrell's having this like renaissance because everything I've seen him in recently, I fucking loved him in. Like I don't know where it came from.
He stopped doing dumb shit movies.
Yeah,
like he had a while where he was doing dumb shit movies,
and everything builds on top of each other. It's the thing. He's been like he built up art person cred for a couple years there, and then he built on top of the art person cred. He was like, I'll do Killing of a Sacred Deer.
And then I'm gonna do SWAT. I'm gonna do Phone Booth.
Well, that's the earlier stuff, but I'm talking like recently. He's been like, I'm doing weird, like
doing In Bruges even. Yes, The Lobster. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he did his Paycheck movie, which was all reshoots, and that was 2 years ago.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
No, it was.
It was a Disney Plus exclusive during the height of COVID.
So apparently, his entire part of Artemis Fowl,
it's just straight. He was never an original cast.
Yeah,
so they reshot 20 minutes worth of a hour and 40-minute movie. Is just reshoots of him.
I think he just wanted to see if he could get into like something that could make him a lot of money when he would do like a movie every like 2 or 3 years.
I think I would say it's been smart. He's been putting himself in roles where he can make money but be forgotten, is how I would put it. He's like, I'm going to put myself in a role where I'll be replaced by Johnny Depp immediately, so you forget that I was in these movies. So you have no memory.
I don't have to be in any sequels.
None of them. You couldn't pay me, but you're going to pay me a lot for this one, where I'm like the 5th character.
I forgot he was in those movies until right now.
Yep.
I forgot he was in that movie.
You forgot, like all of us did.
Yes.
Connor, that was the point. That was the mission. That was the goal.
That was the joke.
And he did it flawlessly.
I'm like third. His IMDb is fucking wild.
Yes.
But he's been good about like picking things that will have notoriety that purely build up his cred.
I'm literally looking. He's
including
an
his
example of 1 for them, 2 for me.
including his sex tape.
Yeah,
He has a sex tape.
Yes, he does.
Or did you like?
Yeah, I forget who the woman was, but yeah, he has a sex tape.
I mean, does it really matter?
No, but I think it's funny because I had seen something. I was looking at a listicle and it had some stuff from Graham Norton, and he was on there, and somebody made a joke at his expense about his sex tape, and he actually rolled with it and had a great comeback at them. So I just, it's funny because apparently his was so tame that it was just like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in the post J-Law's boobs being everywhere era, I guess it can't be that exciting, you know. Looking at his, like you're saying, looking at his, I guess, his CV over the last 2 years, like he's been really smart. Like he's in The Gentleman, and he's just like a supporting role who's like funny, and again, like,
yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, he was great in that.
He shows up, he does good work, even in movies that you're like, I don't care about that. He does his job, and then you forget about it. You know, he was in Widows, a forgotten film.
Holy fuck! I forgot he was in that.
I forgot that
so
movie
good
existed.
It's funny because my wife and I just had a similar conversation, Lou, because we both liked it, but it was just like, oh fuck, Widows. Oh yeah.
That's right. He's in.
That was the peak of let's do this movie, but like with like control replace. Like
yes, he's in True Detective season 2. We're not going to do a True Detective season 2 thing again because we talked about this at length. But oh my god!
And he did his 2 Disney. He did Dumbo, and then he did his reshoots for Artemis Fowl.
Actually, speaking of Disney, before we go too far down a Alan rabbit hole, while we list off an actors are
no, I do want to get back onto. I do want to get onto like more recent things.
That's what I wanted to ask: is has anybody else seen the Haunted Mansion trailer?
No.
I tend to not watch trailers, but were you impressed? Were you?
I'm interested in where it's going, and the cast is pretty fucking good. It's got Danny DeVito in it.
I mean,
that's always good.
It's got Owen Wilson in it. It's got the actress who plays Ashoka.
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson. Yeah, it's got her in it. Like it's not a half bad looking cast, and it seems like it could actually be good because it has some really creepy looking like imagery in it.
Oh, I just looked. Do you know who else is in this show?
Who else?
We got Jamie Lee Curtis, and you have Senior Morb himself.
Who?
Jared Leto.
Oh God. Okay. Well,
you know.
But they are like awesome. You have Lakeith Stanfield. Who's awesome.
That was the other guy I was trying to remember.
Oh,
yeah.
Tiffany Haddish is in this. She's pretty good.
Is this an anthology?
No.
No, it's okay.
It's a stacked fucking cast.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of circling back to the theme park thing that we were talking about. Haunted Mansion is not one of my favorite rides, but this looks like the Haunted Mansion to me. It's,
Yeah, I think it looks like a good time.
Yeah,
honestly,
scary.
I don't know. I mean, I would be happy if this turned into like a new total film for Disney along the lines of like Pirates of the Caribbean was.
Yeah. I would like that.
Luke or Owen Wilson plays a priest.
Maybe.
I mean,
there's a scene later in the trailer that I don't know.
I think he's like a fake priest. It seems like a Clue almost, like in that, like we have different types of people. It's like there's a kid, there's a woman, there's like a street guy, which is Lakeith, and then you have Danny DeVito, and then there's like crazy lady and a priest.
That's really not very chill of you to assume his orientation.
Winona Ryder's in this too.
Oh, really?
She'll be confused as always.
It doesn't have her as
unsure
a
of where
character.
she is and what she's
It just says Winona Ryder. Also, Dan Levy. It just says Dan Levy.
Yeah. So
I'm
like
they're ghosts or something because it doesn't have a character.
No idea.
Who knows? No, that's no, that was a good trailer. There was something else that I was gonna. I don't know.
Something about the theme parks.
I'm okay. As much as I would like to go on and tell you all about how Cocaine Bear was, it's fine.
Did a bear do cocaine and kill people?
The bear did do coke. That's the thing. That's the best. The titular bear doing the cocaine.
Yeah.
The bear doing the cocaine is entertaining. The rest of the movie is like, it's kind of weird. I don't think the tones really work altogether.
Weirdly, the movie made me think of Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah.
So who is the director again? Was it what's her face?
Banks.
Elizabeth Banks. Okay.
It's Elizabeth Banks.
So
yeah.
Is she going to go out in front of the press again when this doesn't do well and make an ass of herself?
So this is kind of getting to something that I was saying earlier. This movie's actually doing pretty well.
I think this is a perfect movie. Like,
is it a snakes on the plane situation?
Yes.
I think it's more the thing I was saying about horror. Like, even something that is barely horror it has like this weird leg up at the moment where you can do pretty well. I mean,
I think it's like, this is like, if someone was going to, like, one of my students was going to go see a movie and it was between Ant-Man and Cocaine Bear, they're going to Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. Well, just for the name alone, yeah. I think
just for the name, it's a perfect name. Like, as opposed to plain
to it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's just it's one premise, and like everyone knows what they're getting into when they go to Cocaine
What could this movie possibly be about?
That's the thing. I don't know if the movie isn't quite funny enough. I thought like it actually is going for like not even shock horror. Like
is it trying to be Jaws?
It's in moments where there are moments where it's like this is like the horror of nature. Like this is like the man's folly is like like the bear is like, you know, nature destroying man and man can't destroy nature. Like there are these moments where I feel like it's trying to be a little bit more than the uproarious title. And again, I don't know if it really earns that. There are things about it that I really enjoy. I think that the characters are kind of whatever. Baby Cube is doing a fine enough job, I guess, in the film. But yeah, like it's a really stacked cast, and they're all like doing what they can with the material. But again, like the bear, who's very cheap and like obviously not a real bear, it has charisma, I guess.
Cocaine can do that for you. It's a hell of a drug.
For his personality, yeah.
And I think that's why it's doing all right. I thought the budget for this was much smaller than it is. It's kind of like it's just making its budget back after the first weekend. Which is not, I don't know, is it the first weekend? No, it's the second weekend.
I bet this is a movie though that like crushes like secondary like streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 90-minute movie. You can get a lot of screenings out of it. Like I bet it sticks around for a while. Yeah, like, but those kinds of movies, like, they're doing fine right now. Those movies are the ones that are kind of untouched by like the Marvel fatigue thing that people are talking about. But when you look at like the top movies and from this weekend and last weekend, it is a really weird list of movies. It's a lot of like smaller movies. It's the Avatars.
You just made me think like maybe it's not Marvel, maybe it's like blockbuster fatigue.
It might, but that goes to what I was saying. Like, what are the other blockbusters for people to be fatigued by? Like in the last
Avatar,
those are the only ones.
Yeah, and Top Gun did good. Avatar did not as good as they wanted, but good.
But outside of those two, what are the other ones that people are actually seeing? And I think that that's a problem. I think that's a problem, and it's a problem for Marvel.
We haven't had a John Wick movie in a while. There's another one coming out soon.
True. And even then, that I would put at a different level. Like that's like the high grade.
It's Fast and Furious movies. We haven't gotten one in a while.
We haven't gotten one in a while. That's true. And even those are kind of suffering from the same thing of like, it's the only game in town, and it's just similar enough to Marvel for it not to feel like it's a different thing. I mean, I've been saying since the 6th one that these are.
Oh yeah, they've been that way.
They just drive cars. I've
seen The Rock fly.
The Rock breaks his arm at the beginning of a movie, and towards the end of the movie, he breaks his own cast with his muscles.
And it's like a with his foot.
Yes, a garage is like collapsed on him, and Vin Diesel says a line. He's like, "The streets always win," and then he collapses a parking garage on him, and Jason Statham survives this. To go on to be part of the family later on. They're absolutely superhero movies. I think The Rock, I want to say he punches a drone in the 7th movie. I might be making that up. I can't be sure.
It sounds legit. I'm way behind on them. But that sounds like something. Is the 7th one the Ronda Rousey one?
Yes, it's the one where she's the guard.
That's the first quality.
That's the Jason Statham first one.
Yeah, where Jason Statham is like Jason Voorhees. He's just like he shows up to like fuck people up, and then he disappears.
Didn't they go into low Earth orbit in the newest one?
They went day 9.
In the last one, yeah. Because everybody was like, "Oh, they got to go into space in the next one," so they. We're like,
there's been like so many rumors of stuff. It's like, oh, they should because they're Universal, right?
Yeah.
People are like they should.
Which is the only. I mean, that's the company that's doing the best outside of Disney right now, and it's because they're the only other ones doing blockbusters.
It's because who's there, the Queen.
Yes.
Yeah. God damn it. But no, like. Like they made a Jurassic Park movie that was about bugs. It's just it was a movie about fucking giant grasshoppers. It's just like anyway, we don't have to continue. I am out of steam. I'm assuming the rest of you are.
Yeah.
We can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we're out of here.
Yeah.
I have no plug.
Anyways,
yeah. Nor do I.
My other show may be getting a new title soon. Maybe. Maybe me and the other Eric will spend the next 6 months not finding something and then just decide to stick with it. So look forward to that and new episodes. We have one that is it's in the bank. It's ready to go. Not quite, but it's an episode about the 4-hour Michael Cimino film Heaven's Gate.
God.
So it's a thrilling conversation.
Now, is the 4-hour version the director's cut, or is that just the original cut of it?
So it's the version that they put out and that critics watched, and they were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. Okay.
What the fuck is wrong with you? I can't understand anything that's going on. I can't see anything because there's a sepia filter. And then they recut it for a year to improve the legibility of the film. And it's a real mess in my personal opinion. It's a real mess of a movie. But
sounds like a good use of 4 hours.
Yeah. It's a whole story. There was a whole book written about it. Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, and that book.
Yep.
Oh, that's on my list.
Yeah, and the end of that book is basically, from my understanding, is like, this is the movie that ended it all. This is the one that was like, it's over. The 70s are done. It's time for the 80s, baby. And okay. So yeah. It is an interesting movie to go back to now with the context of years of people talking about it as like the apocalypse of 70s cinema. So yeah, I'm glad that I did it. I now have a lot of context, and it makes me want to go back and watch The Deer Hunter to be even more confused as to how Heaven's Gate happened. So yeah. Look forward to that episode when it comes out, probably before this one. I would assume. So yeah, that's all I got. I think that's all the plugs.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.